Good afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to the Fantasy Roundup here on Bet.NOLA.com. I'm Zach Ewing, your host, along with fantasy sports expert Spencer the Guru Urquhart, here for another week of fantasy football recaps, action, tips, tricks, anything else we can think of, Spencer.
Oh yeah, we got it all. We got all the tricks in the book to get y'all to the top. We just gotta navigate these crazy waters because you never know what can happen. All the last second injuries from last week just made it wild, but we got y'all.
Spencer and I were just talking off the air about the dual home run chases going on in baseball too. Aaron Judge trying to get to 61 or 62 homers, set the American League record, and some would say the legitimate Major League record. I'm not one of those people, but some people have that opinion. And then, of course, Albert Pujols trying to get to 700, and you can bet on those things. Actually, at Caesar Sportsbook, have a post up about those odds on Bayou Bets a little later this afternoon. But if you'd like to bet on that or on football or on anything else, I'd like to remind you that you can sign up for the Caesar Sportsbook at NOLA.com/Caesars, and you get your first bet free. So if you bet on Judge or Pujols to get to those milestones or to not get to those milestones, and you don't win, you get that money back as a free bet up to $1,250. So a pretty good deal there. Spencer will also have his waiver wire column up later this afternoon. And we'll have content all week on bet.nola.com. So tune in. Also be back 4 o'clock on Thursday for the Bayou Bets Show, previewing the weekend to come in the NFL and college football. But for now, Spencer, one last look back at week 2, which just wrapped up last night. Kind of a disappointing round of Monday Night Football, if we're being honest. We were talking on Bayou Bets yesterday about how good these matchups looked. Titans, Bills, and Vikings, Eagles. And they were both duds.
Yeah, both ended up super lopsided, So good if you had Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, but bad if you had much else, especially Derrick Henry. Man, I was so mad about that because it was a league where I needed a win to avoid going 0-2, but ended up with the L because of stupid Derrick Henry. He got the early touchdowns. I was like, oh, I got this. And then he does nothing the rest of the game. I put in the league chat, I'm selling Derrick Henry for cheap. Send me offers. I was so mad.
Breaking the rules, selling low.
Yeah, I'm glad no one sent me anything because I may have rage
May have been
accepted
on
an
tilt
offer,
there.
but yeah, exactly. So I've kind of calmed down now. But yeah, it's just so frustrating. I mean, he scored early, like I think he'd have it, and then last year, that just goes to show I don't think Derrick Henry's his old self because last year he gashed the Bills. I mean, I know the Bills are probably better this year, but not that much better to where he should have done that bad. That was crazy.
Yeah, no, that was pretty bad. And Justin Jefferson also didn't. I was in a league where I needed Justin Jefferson to do very little, and I got just enough from him. Won it by about 1.5 points. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
getting
Kirk
scared.
Cousins, pooh, another stinker.
Yeah, and Jefferson caught a pass in the last drive, and I was already up by half a point. And it was, actually, I think I was only up by like 0.2 of a point. He catches that pass, and I'm thinking, please don't fumble that thing because I was already
That'll
up, and of
lose
course,
you points.
yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't fumble. It was a 5 yard gain, but I ended up getting the point for the reception and half a point, and I won by like 1.7 points. Whew, got just enough. Funny the way fantasy football works because last week in that league, went crazy, had the highest score in the league by 50 points, played the team that had the second highest score in the league and still blew them out. And then this week, I had the second lowest score in the league, but I happen to be playing the person with the lowest score. So I'm 2-0, and I actually average out to a pretty good point total, but it's just funny the way it works. So
Oh yeah,
looking
you never know.
looking at top scoring quarterbacks for week 2, Spencer, sometimes you just can't control that stuff, I guess is my point. Lamar Jackson, 42.62 points. Tua Tagovailoa in the same game, 38.86 points. Those guys went crazy.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that game to be that much of a shootout because normally you think, Ravens, Dolphins, pretty good defenses, but obvious the Ravens still have a lot of issues in their secondary, and the Dolphins defense probably not quite as good without Brian Flores. So yeah, that game ended up in an insane shootout to where they both ended up by far the top 2 highest scores. They had a big ones from Monday, though. Jalen Hurts, he went off, and Josh Allen, and then Carson Wentz kept it going. So while they had a lot
Second
of
straight week in the top 5 for Carson Wentz.
That is crazy. Never would have expected that with the Commanders, but maybe that's the fresh start he needed because they've done pretty well with him. They've got weapons there: Scary Terry, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. I think he could. I don't think he'll be top 5 every week, but I think he could sneak in a back end QB1 finish at the rate he's going.
Are you picking up Carson Wentz in as a backup quarterback type situation, especially if you have a guy with an early bye week?
Oh yeah, probably so. I'm glad I got him in one of my super flex leagues. That one that I had lost Dak in. I was like, man, he's him and Josh Allen. I had 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks, so that's huge. But yeah, as far as single QB, he's a nice backup, and he's somebody that, like I say, could be a back end starter a lot of weeks.
It certainly has been through 2 weeks. We do have a question in the comments, and by the way, drop your comments or questions below for us. Also, give us a like, a subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel, and we're back here every Tuesday during the football season. Our question from Shefanabi. 2 offers for CEH. One is Pollard and Breece Hall. The other is Cam Akers and Cordero Patterson. It's a redraft. He's got Javonte Williams, Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, very deep at running back. In
Oh
other
wow,
words.
yeah, that's a nice backfield.
So I don't know that you need 2 more running backs for CEH. I might ask for some receivers or something, depending on where your team looks. What do you think, Spencer?
Yeah, I would definitely prefer Pollard and Breece Hall. Akers is still a committee with Henderson, and don't trust Patterson. He came back to earth this week. But yeah, Pollard and Breece Hall are nice. I would take that one. But yeah, if you could maybe rework it to give you a receiver instead of Pollard, that'd probably be more ideal considering how deep the backfield is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of those takes. I like the first offer, but if you can shore yourself up at receiver, tight end, quarterback somewhere else, you may need more help. You look set at running back, which is not easy to do in fantasy football. So congratulations. It's hard to be that deep at running back. And by the way, I still think I do that deal even if you can't get a receiver because you can never have too much depth at running back.
Yeah, CEH is a great sell high candidate. Breece Hall, a nice buy low, and you're getting Pollard to boot.
Perfect. Speaking of running backs, not a great week around the league for running backs, unless your name was Nick Chubb or Aaron Jones. Nobody else got past 20, but there we see our man Tony Pollard.
Right, yeah, really weird that only 2 guys had over 20, and the ones that did, Chubb and Jones had well over that, over 30. So yeah, not a great week for running backs. I mean, Austin Eckler was somebody on Thursday, like, yeah, he did all right, but not that great. But then he ends up as a top 5 running back because all those late receptions he got. So yeah, it was not a good week for running backs. Let's just be real. It was brutal. Unless you had Chubb or Jones, you're probably struggling there. But yeah, good to see Pollard outscore Zeke. So I'm thinking that Pollard's the one to have. I know Dallas without Dak is appealing, but at least with Pollard, he'll get those receptions. Zeke, man, I'm so glad I avoided him. He's looking washed, man. Just like I thought. Can't get him all right, but that's one I'm looking like that I'm right on so far.
Zeke is one of those guys that later in the year you may be targeting DFS because he'll have that 1 week where he pops off, but I don't like him in season long.
Not at all.
Chef Anobi is back, says his receivers are A.J. Brown, Gabe Davis, Scary Terry, and Christian Kirk. So good receiving crew too.
Yeah.
But maybe a little less depth there than you have at running back, especially with Gabe Davis's injury right now. So maybe take a look at that. For receivers in week 2, Spencer, you mentioned Stephon Diggs at the top of the show. What a night for him. And then a couple of Dolphins next.
Lord, the receivers. My God, everyone went off. At least at the top they did. Man, that was quite the show. It wasn't as many of the usual suspects. A lot, though. Cup, Diggs, Hill, a lot of times are up there. But yeah, Waddle really surprised me. Was not expecting Waddle to have the kind of start he's been off to. But he's been right up there with Tyreek. Him and Tua have good chemistry, and to where I think both those guys are in the WR1 mix. I don't know if they're not going to finish top 5 every week, but they'll definitely be worth a start every week because they have that elite upside. And then same with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I wasn't really a believer in him heading into this season, but he's shown that he's a true focal point at Lions offense. Could be a bit of a sell high candidate once Jameson Williams comes back, but Jameson's probably going to miss the first half of the season, so keep riding the Amon-Ra train while it's rolling.
Going back to quarterbacks' choices, what do you think about Tua? Funny what happens when you give a QB weapons. Yeah, it is. And by the way, I think listen, the Dolphins, and this has been well publicized, they've screwed up just about everything with Tua. Bringing in Fitzpatrick and kind of yo-yoing Tua in and out of the lineup for a couple of years. Going after Deshaun Watson hard in the offseason. This is really the first time Tua hasn't had to look over his shoulder. And I think that makes a difference too. He knows I can make a mistake and I'm still going to be out here on the next series. And I think that combined with the fact that, yeah, Tyreek Hill's pretty darn good too. I like Tua all year long as a top 10, top 12 quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely underestimated him somewhat because shout out to Troy. He's been a Tua truther. You know, I gotta give him that. He stayed consistent with that. I was, kind of ribbing him in the offseason, like, Tua, he ain't gonna be that good. Even with Tyreek, I don't think he's that good. But the way he's played so far, he's in the QB1 discussion. I mean, him and Wentz, I would probably rather him over Wentz because he's not just to have weapons. He's got 2 elite weapons. So even if he's a little bit off, those weapons will help get those yards after the catch and make him look good.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to tight ends for week 2 as we continue wrapping up the week that was on the fantasy roundup. Another guy from that Ravens-Dolphins game, Mark Andrews, was the Ravens' leading receiver. Of course, Lamar Jackson really went off for them. And then further down, the one bright spot for the Vikings last night was seeing Irv Smith Jr. get in the end zone and get some targets.
Yeah, tight end position, once again, tricky to navigate. Andrews get to the top this week, not Kelsey. But, I mean, we know those two are constants. Waller still consistent, even with Adams in there. Ertz still very consistent. But, yeah, after about those top 5 or 6, it's a guessing game. Good to see Irv Smith get up in there. He was somebody I was high on this offseason. I think I cut him in a couple leagues. Wish I wouldn't have done that, but I could probably get him back because he's not rostered in that many leagues. So yeah, he's showing that when healthy, he's a solid option. And Higbee's become kind of a target hog there outside of Cooper Kupp. He's become their second most targeted option. So it's kind of tough to navigate a lot of duds, but just got to adapt and find the ones that have been trending as of late. And Higbee's definitely one of those.
No doubt about that. Our fantasy stars for week 2, Spencer, you went to the running back route. And again, I'd like to get your take on this. With how poorly running backs did this past week, is that a check mark in the column for doing like a hero RB or zero RB strategy? Or do you think it goes, I know that you've been slow to embrace that sort of strategy, or does this go the other way where it just shows the importance of having a top guy?
Yeah, I think it's more on the side of it. It shows the importance of having, 2 or 3 of these stud running backs. Because, for example, I had Saquon week 1 who went off, and he didn't do as well this week. But guess who else I had this week? Nick Chubb, who was my star of the week. As you can see here, had over 30 points, 3 touchdowns. So that's why I still like having 2 or 3 of those big dog running backs. Because if I'd have done hero RB and just taken Saquon, I wouldn't have had Chubb's big week.
You might have had 2 of those big receivers though. That's where we get into the discussion here. If you had maybe not taking a second one allows you to get Stephon Diggs or something, and that makes a big difference too.
Yeah. This week though, a lot of them came back during. Devontae Adams fell down somewhat. Michael Pittman didn't play. Mike Evans didn't do too good, and then he was going to find himself suspended. They're doing the appeal today, but I doubt he'll win it, considering he's a repeat offender. So yeah, it's not like the receivers are a sure thing either. I mean, they are safer than the running backs, but I felt like Nick Chubb was somebody that was falling too far in drafts. I think in the listener league, I got him in the 4th round. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that, but I'll take it, considering the Browns are so run heavy still.
I think even when Deshaun Watson comes back, the Browns are going to, keep running the ball. So a couple of questions here. Troy says he got offered a trade. He would get Justin Jefferson and Aaron Rodgers for Lamar Jackson and Chris Olave. Boy, that is a blockbuster. That is a blockbuster trade. If you have Josh Allen and Lamar, first of all, I don't know how you ended up with those 2 guys.
Yeah, is it a
keeper
flex?
League. Yeah. Even in a super flex, those 2 are both taken in the 1st round, right? Maybe it's a keeper league.
Yeah, it must be.
But I think I'd do it unless it is a super flex league. There's no sense in having a talent like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen sitting on your bench every week.
Yeah, I mean, even if it is super flex, I'd probably still do it
You get
because
Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
Yeah, you're getting Rodgers, who'd be a solid second QB. And I mean, Jefferson. I mean, I love Chris Olave, but Justin Jefferson's a tremendous upgrade over Chris Olave because with the Saints, I mean, especially if Jameis's injury issues continue, Chris Olave is not going to be reliable. Or with Justin Jefferson, yeah, he didn't do that well this week, but we all know that he's a top 5 receiver with overall WR1 upside. So, yeah, to me, that's as they say, a smash accept. You got to do that ASAP. If it's sitting up there, hit accept now. Don't think twice.
Yeah, I think so too. Sean has a waiver wire question claim. Hang on 1 second, Sean, because we're going to get to waiver wire in just a second. Let us know who you have, who you're thinking of dropping, or where you need help, though. I see the players listed available, but let us know who you may drop there. My fantasy star for week 2, in the meantime, was Lamar Jackson. Listen, I got this guy in one of my leagues in like the 8th or 9th round. He's a freaking cheat code. I mean, I understand there's a risk that he could get hurt. He's probably not going to throw as much as he did this week very often. But when he does, 318 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, 119 rushing yards and a touchdown. I mean, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, he's insane, and he's doing it. He's trying to get his new contract, show what he's worth, and yeah, he's going to be a man on a mission this year, especially with Baltimore secondary still looking rough. He's going to have to throw more than anticipated, and even when J.K. Dobbins comes back, he should still do well because then there'll be less attention on him as far as a runner. So yeah, he's in a good spot regardless of the situation. Just got to stay healthy, but he's going to produce as long as he's out there.
All right, that is kind of our wrap up for week 2. Now we want to move on to week 3 first, but our listener league results for week 2. Let's get to those first. Spencer, you and I both, we just got crushed by big weeks. I think that's not both of those guys were 173. I mistyped. One of them was, I think the guy I faced, WTF Bama, you were at 178. Just tip of the cap to you guys because you ain't going to beat that most weeks.
Right. Yeah, we got handled this week, man. They want those tickets. They want the Caesars prize, man. Shout out to Caesars because they these listeners are hungry, man. They've done look. It's the Bama and Bucktown Rebel 2-0. That's impressive.
Yeah, those two guys leading the way right now. Top 4 get into the playoffs, and then we'll play for those tickets. So that'll be a lot of fun as we continue on board. Question from William says, who would you start, Zeke, Curtis Samuel, or Amari Cooper in week 3? Curtis Samuel's had a real good start to the season.
Yeah, definitely not Zeke. So I know Cooper gets Pittsburgh on a Thursday. Who did the Commanders get this week?
Commanders have the Giants this week.
The Giants, okay, yeah, that could be a little chippy. But wait, I thought Dallas had the Giants.
Yeah, you're right. It's Philly. I'm sorry, it's the other.
Philly.
Yeah,
they
okay. Get Philly. Yep.
Okay, yeah, Philly's been pretty chippy, so I'd still go Samuel though because on a Thursday, I think that game's gonna be kind of ugly, and Pittsburgh. I mean, their defense isn't as good as it once was, but it's still pretty solid, and I just don't see a whole lot of points there. And Cooper, we all know he's a roller coaster. He did good last week, so good luck having him do good 2 weeks in a row. Give me Curtis.
Absolutely. All right, waiver wire action. Here are your top waiver wire targets at each position. Caveat here, they have to be owned in less than 30% of ESPN leagues. So there could be other guys out there in your league. Be sure to check the wire. But here's your top guys at each spot.
Yeah, I'm going Mac Jones for quarterbacks. As a streamer against Baltimore, who's, as we mentioned, their secondary is not very good again. And then last year they would just get shredded by passers. So I'm thinking Jones will do pretty well. His Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers did well last week, so he's starting to get chemistry going in their new look off there. What's the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, which isn't pretty, but I mean, Mac Jones is all right, so I'm thinking he'll tread the Ravens. Running back, Benjamin should do well this week, especially if James Conner isn't playing. It's kind of contingent on Conner's health. He left the game, I believe, with an ankle injury last week and could miss this week. And if so, I think Benjamin will see a lot of work there. And then Greg Dortch, a receiver for the Cardinals, their offense is starting to come together. And he seems to be the guy that stepped up in place of DeAndre Hopkins. So him and Benjamin, I know the Cardinals aren't like don't look as good as they did, but they still are solid. It's still the air raid with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, so there's still value to be had with them.
All right, and I want to go back to Sean's question. He never updated us on who he'd be dropping or where he needs help, but he does have the number one waiver claim. I mean, I got to say, Tua sticks out to me here, but it depends on who your quarterback is. Here we go. Dropping Albert O made a mistake. Started him over Goddard. He lost Dak and has Wentz for quarterback.
That's all right. I wouldn't worry about Tua then.
Needs a bench hold or trade bait to get a better wide receiver. So, I don't know. What do you think here, Spencer?
I'm thinking probably, either Mostert or Brown. Probably Mostert, though, because he seems to be taking over as the main back in Miami, but Buffalo's a tough matchup. Man, that's tough. I would say either him or Brown. Probably Mostert.
What about Brian Robinson?
Well, Robinson's not coming back until week 5 at the earliest. I mean, I like Robinson, but unless you have an IR spot, I probably wouldn't do that. But if you have an IR spot and still need to fill it, then I'd say him. But I would say
if where you really need help as receiver, and you're just looking for a stash, Robinson might have the highest ceiling. You might get something for a trade for him. Let's say he comes back in week 5 and looks good. It just depends on how patient you can afford to be.
Right, yeah, because I don't see Mostert doing much this week, and then Brown, the Giants have been good on defense. So I don't really see either of them being difference makers.
All right, Jose. Hey, Jose, would y'all trade Deebo Samuel and Tua for Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler? I would, yes.
Yeah, I would
selling high on Tua for sure.
Yeah, assuming it's single QB. If it's super flex, it's a little trickier because if you don't have a third QB, you could be in trouble. But if it's single QB, oh yeah, easy, yes. Because with those running backs, it's hard to get them in Eckler's. Eckler's still one of the elite.
And listen, Tua was great, but you're selling Tua high. Tua is not going to be a top 5 quarterback the rest of the way, where Austin Eckler might be a top 5 running back. And Keenan Allen for Deebo is pretty close, so I would go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
assuming Keenan Allen's going to be healthy.
Which he should be. He's had.
You've got Kyler Murray. Assuming it's a one quarterback league, absolutely do that deal.
Yeah, even if it's super flex, I mean, you could keep Carson Wentz in your super flex spot, and I'll have that situation, and it's pretty good. I kind of like him as a second QB.
All right, Spencer. One question we talk about, and you came up with this year to kind of do is, well, who do I drop? I want to pick up these waiver wire targets. Somebody's got to go. Mm-hmm. So who's got to go this week?
Oh, yeah, Justin Fields, Cole Kmet, any Bears pass catchers pretty much. You got to go. I mean, that passing offense there is a disaster, a train wreck, whatever you want to call it. It's so bad. I mean, it's just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I thought that Fields could at least support 1 or 2 receivers or tight ends, but he is just the 70 yards passing. Like, just get off my team, bro. You suck in the pass. And he was complaining about the fans out there. Like, man, come on, dude. You gotta man up and do better. That was brutal.
His offense. I mean, look, his offensive line is terrible.
Yeah, that is true.
If you're not an elite quarterback, you are going to have big time problems when your offensive line is trouble.
Yeah, they set him up for failure. I was just thinking he might be able to extend some plays and make things happen, but I guess if it's so bad, there's only so much you can do. But for fantasy, I mean, it's like you got to go if you're not producing more than 70 yards.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then the other guys, Rashad Penny, we thought he might be the guy in Seattle. Doesn't look like it.
No, yeah, the Seattle backfield's a total mess. Travis Homer in their backfield in touches. That's all you need to know there. That's a mess. Stay away from all those guys. And in the Giants receiver room as well, I had Kenny Golladay on the list last week. This week it's Kadarius Toney. I was calling him Phony Tony in the offseason, and so far that's been proven right because he has been a no-show. No one's really done much over there outside of a little bit of Sterling Shepard and I believe Richie James. Like, those two have done okay, but who would have thought? Because everyone's saying Wandale might break out. He's hurt. Kenny Golladay, he cleaned out his locker. He's probably gonna get cut or something. And then he's just like a gadget player. I can't believe they took that dude in the first round last year.
I mean, he may end up being good, but unless this is like a dynasty league,
redraft, you gotta cut him. Yeah. If anything, you got to hope he gets traded or something because he is very fast and athletic. If he lands in the right spot, he could be all right. But the Giants don't seem to be it for him.
And the Giants seem to be content being a defense and sort of running team and dump off to the running back. And I still like Saquon a lot.
Oh yeah.
And I think that the team is going to be okay, but I just don't know about those weapons. Let's move on and talk a little. Jose also says if I swap out Keenan Allen for Mike Evans. So just to be sure, are you the one giving up Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler? If that's the case, I would not do this deal. I think that's the better side of the deal. If you are the one getting Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, I prefer Allen to Evans myself. I don't think the injury seems serious. It's a mild hamstring strain. He's supposed to even be back this week. Evans will be suspended this week. I mean, Evans is fine. I don't think it's a huge drop-off, but I prefer Allen, Spencer.
Yeah, I could see it if he didn't want to take 2 Chargers. I mean, it's a good offense. I wouldn't be scared off by that. But if I could see, wanting to diversify a little bit, then take Evans. And Evans isn't far off from Allen. They're very similar. I think in my preseason rankings, I had them 11 and 12 among receivers.
Yeah, so not a huge drop-off there if that does scare you off. But I don't think Allen's injury is going to be a big deal. We'll move on and talk a little DFS for week 3. If your season-long team's 0-2 and you don't like it or you have injuries or whatever, and even if you're doing good in season-long, DFS can be a heck of a lot of fun. Maybe spend some more time on this. And there's David's take. Evans upside higher than Allen. Evans gets the TDs.
In PPR, though, I mean, Allen gets more receptions, and he's a safer floor guy. But in standard, I agree, Evans is the guy. But most people play PPR.
I also think the Chargers are just going to have a better offense than the Bucs, period. So even though Evans gets more action in the red zone, maybe the Chargers will be in the red zone more. So that's really close for me. I don't think you can necessarily go wrong there. Talk a little DFS, Spencer. Here's some values for you. Not necessarily guys that we're going to play, not necessarily the best at each position, but a good guy for the price to build your lineup with.
Yeah, I tried to go a little further down and, tried to find some more deep dive values and I was able to find some. Derek Carr, I think, backs against the wall, 2, thinking he'll do pretty well. It'll be a plus matchup. I forget who they get. They get someone else that's 0-2, I believe.
The Titans.
The Titans who have been shredded so far, especially last night. I know it was the Bills, but it's it's a short week for them. I don't see them being able to shake back real good. So I'm thinking Carr is gonna carve them up. And then Dameon Pierce, I like him this week. Texans, they haven't been great. They aren't that great, but they get the Bears this week, who just got gashed on the ground by Green Bay. So I'm thinking Pierce, being that he's the primary back over there, outcarried Rex Burkhead this week, reestablished himself as the guy after all the preseason hype. So I'm thinking at 5,000, that's a bargain as like a second or third running back. Jacoby Myers, another bargain. I mentioned I like Mac Jones as a waiver wire ad, so I'm thinking Myers do pretty well against the Ravens, who suck against the pass. And then Irv Smith. Irv Smith did well last week. I think he could keep it going this week in a plus matchup against Detroit.
That is the story on Spencer's DFS picks. And I, by the way, I really like Derek Carr. You turned in your picks first, and so I didn't have a chance to say it. But I picked Joe Burrow at quarterback, but I really like a Carr-Adams stack. And I know we're talking values, and Adams is priced up, but he's still like $1,400 lower than Justin Jefferson. And I think Cooper Kupp and maybe Jamar Chase were up there as well. If you can save $1,500, there is no reason to think Adams is not going to be among the top guys this week. The Titans, you mentioned they've been shredded. They have particularly been shredded, and this is going back over the last couple of years, not just this year. Number 1 receivers. The Titans don't have an elite corner. Number 1 receivers carve them up. They have a big problem in that secondary. You mentioned Adams had a slow week last week. He's going to be hungry. The Raiders are desperate. What do you do when you're desperate? You go to your bread and butter. Carr to Adams. Love that stack in Tennessee this week. But if you don't want to go to Carr, a few dollars more, Joe Burrow, similar situation, going to be desperate. Jets have not been great defensively, both Lamar Jackson and even last week. Blanking on his name now from the Browns. He's so bad. Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
I can't even remember his name. He's so bad, and he had a pretty big day passing the ball. against the Jets. And so I do like Joe Burrow. We talked about how bad the Bears passing game is. I love David Montgomery. And by the way, you can run on the Texans. Both the Broncos and Colts have run on the Texans this year. The Bears are going to have to run. David Montgomery get 25, 30 touches in that game. So I like him at just 5,900. And then tight end, I also like Irv Smith, your pick. I want Juwan Johnson. I think the Saints, again, desperate team, they're going to be careful. Dennis Allen's not a risk taker. Jameis Winston is. So what do you tell him? Hey, Jameis, go underneath. Juwan Johnson's had 12 targets in 2 games. And people don't realize he hasn't caught all of them. But if the Saints stopping the pass rush is a problem, but they want to move the ball, Michael Thomas is, of course, going to get some targets. But Juwan Johnson, sneaky pick for DFS this week as well, especially with those PPR points.
Yeah, he's clearly passed up Adam Troutman as the Saints receiving tight end. And, I mean, Taysom Hill, he just gets the wildcat looks here and there. So, yeah, Johnson's got somewhat of a floor, and he gets a good matchup. Carolina gave up a big touchdown to the Giants rookie tight end last week. So, a matchup could be exploitable there. So, yeah, give me Juwan at that price. I had kind of forgot about him. But, yeah, 2,900, that's a steal.
Just going back to Jose's question, it does look like he is the one with Eckler and Evans and Keenan Allen.
Keep him,
I would
Jose,
not do that trade. I mean, he also says, what if I trade Keenan Allen for Mike? Don't do that. Mike Williams had a big day
good, dude.
because Keenan Allen was out.
Yeah.
It's not like Keenan Allen's going to miss weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. He missed this week because it was a Thursday game. I'll bet you he plays this coming Sunday. I've got Keenan Allen in a league. Don't give up on Keenan Allen. That's selling low. Don't do that. I would hold tight on that until you get a better offer. Sure. Spencer, sleepers for week 3, it's a weird category. It's not waiver wire pickups. It's not necessarily smash plays. It's not DFS plays. Just kind of another guy we like better than the consensus.
Yeah, it's one of those like sneaky plays. I kind of view it as like, it's not really it's kind of like the DFS thing where you're just looking for a 1 week thing. But yeah, it's kind of like a flex, kind of sneaky.
Yeah, you could use them in DFS if you want, or maybe start them if it's a start.
Yeah, it's flexible. Yeah.
Yep.
So Brashad Perryman for me, assuming Mike Evans gets the suspension, which I'm pretty sure he will, because like the repeat offender. I mean, come on, man, the league's got to take action. He's out of control. We could do a whole show on that, but anyway, Perryman, I think he's going to do really well this week.
We did half a show on it yesterday.
We could do another one, because I was like, that one was like with Jim's crazy takes. He said more of it. Anyway, we'll pick that back up Thursday. But yeah, Perryman I like because he's the top off the defense guy. Now that Evans in there, he's the one that scored the big touchdown to put the Bucks up last week. So I'm thinking Perryman without Evans should do really well this week, because they're gonna have to throw it against Green Bay. I mean, that's probably gonna be more of a shootout to where Brady's gonna have to sling it a little more, because these first couple weeks he hadn't had to do hardly anything because of his defense. His defense is carried, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers will go down that easy.
I went with Travis Etienne. A little bit of a risky play, definitely, but maybe worth it in some like tournament plays in DFS, because no one else will want to play the guy. James Robinson's gotten the lion's share of the carries, but Etienne went from, I think, 6 carries to 10 carries, or 5 to 9 or something like that from week 1 to week 2. So they are getting him involved more. And the Chargers, think about CEH going crazy on Thursday night, similar type player. They're susceptible to those underneath passes and runs. I could see Etienne getting off the schneid, getting in the end zone, busting one of those big plays. And he is getting a little more share than James Robinson lately.
I like it. Yeah, great buy low candidate. Robinson's got the early down rule on lock, but Etienne is still the go-to in the screen game. And, yeah, he's going to get going here soon. Great buy low candidate, and still worth a flex play, I feel like. Definitely temper the preseason expectations for now, but he should see more and more work. So might break out this week. Hopefully he does. It help my sanity because I got so many shares of him. But just if you have him, hold tight, and hopefully this will be the week. But yeah, the Chargers, that could be a tricky matchup. Just gotta hope the Jags fall behind, honestly, so they do a lot of dump offs.
That was the other thing I was going to say. If they fall behind, Etienne's getting the action a lot more than Robinson is. And the Chargers look, though, I mean, even the Raiders, who do not have a good running game, I think ran for 4.8 yards a carry against the Chargers in week 1. The Chiefs obviously ran all over them on Thursday night. CEH had a big night. So I do like Etienne this week. I like Robinson too, but if I'm looking for a sleeper, I'm going Travis Etienne.
Yeah, and then another thing to monitor would be the health of Justin Herbert in that one. Because if Herbert doesn't play, then it's like fire up James Robinson. Jacksonville just going to try to control the clock, run it down their throats, win a low-scoring, ugly game. But if Herbert plays, then fire them both up, because then at that point, Trevor Lawrence is going to be forced to throw. And as a result, Etienne should do pretty well.
Yeah, and I would think that if either way, it's a good week for Austin Eckler, because even if Herbert does play, if he's banged up, they might try a lot of quick passes, a lot of dump offs and things like that. That says Keenan Allen. That says Austin Eckler to me.
Yeah, and then we know if the old the richest backup quarterback, Chase Daniel, never really plays, but if he has to play, you best believe he'll be dumping that thing off.
Yes, he will. Mizzou in the house, baby. Mizzou, that's Mizzou Business School for you. What's he made $12 million for throwing 50 passes in his career or something?
Yeah, he's like the Kirk Cousins of backup quarterbacks.
Amazing. All right, everybody, that is it for us today. Spencer, any final thoughts on this Tuesday Fantasy Roundup?
Yeah, I would say oh man, I was trying to think of one might be good.
I'll give you one while you think.
Okay.
Stay the course. Stay the course.
Okay.
Look, we talked about overreactions. Keenan Allen's hurt. Oh, I got to trade. No, you don't. Not yet. Travis Etienne, got to sell him. No, you don't. Not yet. There are some things that you do want to react to quickly, especially guys on the waiver wire. If you have one of those top picks, grab them, take a chance. But I would not. We talked about it last week. Overreaction. That still applies. It's still only been 2 weeks out of a 16-week or 17-week fantasy season.
100%. And I got a fantasy baseball one, actually, I'll throw in, since I know a lot of people are in their fantasy baseball playoffs at this point. Nick Lodolo. If Nick Lodolo for the Cincinnati Reds is still available in your league, pick him up, because he's a 2-start pitcher this week. Goes tonight against the Red Sox. Like the Reds tonight, actually, for daily best bets, because it's a good matchup. The Red Sox starters hadn't been too good. And it's at Great American Ballpark, in which Lodolo's been surprisingly Great American, as a 2.70 home ERA. So he's somebody that I like a lot, and he's starts twice, been striking out batters, 11 Ks in his last 2 starts. Got him ready to go in the league. I made in playoffs in the semis. Got him in the semis this week in that one, a 12-man league. Shout out to Adam Daigle at the Acadiana Advocate. Gonna hopefully get the dub and maybe face off with him in the finals. But yeah, Nick Lodolo, definitely worth an ad. And also sell high on Michael Thomas.
All right. Heard it here first. Sell high on Michael Thomas. Had 2 good weeks. Saints passing game looks iffy. We got one more question before we go. Would you trade J.K. Dobbins for Dalton Schultz? His current tight end is Everett, so he's looking to upgrade there. He's got Henry, Barkley, Fournette, Gibson, and J-Rob. I'd do it.
Yeah, on the surface, it'd probably be a yes. But honestly, though, I don't think I would, because I feel like you could get something better for, like, you could probably trade like a Fournette or something and get a better tight end than Schultz. He's banged up. He hurt his knee, might miss a week or 2. And he's just in that. He hadn't been looked the part so far. Him and Cooper Rush don't seem to be on the same page. He's one of Dak's guys, I feel. So I guess if that's all you can get for Dobbins, maybe. But I wouldn't rush into that. I'd field other offers and see if you could maybe pull off like a Kelsey or Andrews, since your running back room's so stacked.
Yeah, it will be difficult to get owners to let go of those top tight ends, but maybe. And I mean, you're right, Spencer. It is a buy low, but it's also a sell low. So little half and half there. All right. Join us every Tuesday at 2:00 live for the Fantasy Roundup. We'll answer your questions, take your comments, and Bayou Bets back on Thursday at 4:00. These same channels. Give us a like, a subscribe, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us.